February 3, 2021 to order. And our first order of business is looking at the plan from 397 Beechwood Street in Cohasset. And who do we have on board who will present the case?
This is Greg Morse with Morse Engineering.
Hello, Greg. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you again. Well, Greg, it's all yours. Take it away and do your presentation, and then we'll carry on.
Great.
Thank you.
I figure we just start, Greg, with location.
Sure. So again, for the record, Gregory Morse. I'm a registered engineer with Morse Engineering. The property is located at 397 Beechwood Street. It's owned by Lori Ferreira, and this is a septic system repair project. The lot itself is about half an acre in size. It has an existing 4-bedroom home on it. It's serviced by a cesspool in the backyard of the house. And that cesspool failed a Title V inspection. The house is currently for sale. Looking at the plan on the screen here, the property line is the black line shown in bold. Beechwood Street is at the bottom of the page. You can see the house, which is kind of centrally located on the lot. So again, right behind the house, the plumbing exits the back. The lot is not in a Zone 2. It is not in a DEP Zone A, and it is not in a nitrogen sensitive area per the Cohasset rules and regulations. The proposal here is to construct a new septic system. It would be a 4-bedroom capacity system. It's an existing 4-bedroom house. It would consist of a new septic tank in the backyard, a 1,500-gallon septic tank, a distribution box, and then a Presby EnviroSeptic leaching field. It's a gravity-fed septic system. We had good soils in the location that we selected. We did perk tests there back in December with Phil Spath, and that seemed to be the most logical location for a system on this site. It allowed for the system to be installed by gravity. The remainder of the site would predominantly require a pump as the front yard goes uphill. There were 2 local upgrade approvals we're requesting. The first one is a setback from the leaching system to the foundation. Typically a 20-foot setback is required. We're proposing a setback of 16.4 feet. Secondarily, we're requesting the use of a sieve analysis. When we did the perk tests, the soils at that location were saturated and we couldn't physically do a perk test in the field. So we pulled a sample of soil and did a sieve analysis. Other than that, it's a Title V compliant system. It's an IA technology recognized by the DEP. It meets property line setbacks. I'll turn it over to you.
You want to mention the IA technology credits that you're requesting, Greg?
Sure. So the DEP, when they review any of the different IA technologies that are out there, again, this one being a Presby EnviroSeptic system, they study these systems at the state level, and they come up with design criteria that we have to meet when we do the design, and associated with those, they allow certain design credits to be applied. With Presby systems, the credits that you're allowed to go down to a 2-foot minimum separation to the groundwater table. We're proposing actually a 3-foot separation to the groundwater table. Secondly, you are allowed to request up to a 40% size reduction in the leaching system. And we are requesting only a 3% size reduction. There is another technology credit that's allowed with the Presby. It has to do with naturally occurring soil. We don't request that credit in this case. They are credits that you get with the system as opposed to a variance or a local upgrade approval.
Okay, thank you. Jason, are you on tonight?
I am here.
Hello, Jason. Would you, you have some comments, I know, based upon the letter you sent, or letter was sent from the water department to the Board of Health, please, if you will.
Yeah, so the letter was approved by the water commissioners to be submitted. the Presby system doesn't do a great job on nitrogen removal. We have an existing site, as you guys know, that is currently a Presby system at Cook Estates that's failing and is causing nitrogen levels, excessive nitrogen levels in the groundwater there. This system is directly abutting a wetland that feeds the Iron River. The Iron River is the main tributary to Lily Pond, which is at this point the town's only water supply. And when you introduce high levels of nitrogen and phosphorus to a wetland, it's a great treatment system for wastewater. The problem is it creates a ton of organics. So what we see at the plant right now is currently whenever there's a rainstorm or a rain event, you see elevated levels of nitrogen. I mean, of organics in the water right after rain events. So it's basically you're flushing out those wetlands adjacent to the streams, and it's affecting the water quality at Lily Pond. So we just are concerned with the reduction in depth to groundwater. We know it's an innovative credit, but to the maximum extent possible to protect the environment, which is the charge in Title V. I don't know that this is the maximum extent possible to protect the environment currently.
And so Jason, what's the water department looking for?
They're looking for treatment prior to the Presby. So a fast system or something that would treat nutrient removal prior to discharge to leaching.
Now, this proposed SAS is upwind of the borderline wetland. Is that correct?
Yep.
I'll put it the other way. The wetland is downstream.
Yes.
Okay. And what is the sense that you have of the nitrogen removing capability of the Presby as proposed?
Very little. What we're seeing at Cook Estates, at least, is in the level of the water coming out of that hill was in the 20 to 50 range in nitrates.
Anybody else have any questions? Michael or Lynn?
So is there any, so this is for Greg, I guess. So the additional foot of separation that you're looking for, I mean, the alternative that the water department is suggesting is, right, they have one solution. The other one is to figure out how to raise the system up by a foot. What's your perspective on that?
Sure. I can't really speak about the Cook Estates project. That's a much different application than a single family home on Beechwood Street. Cohasset Board of Health has approved several other Presby systems on Beechwood Street in the general vicinity of the Erin River, as well as the reservoir in Lily Pond. It's not a technology that this board has not seen before. It's not recognized as a nitrogen reduction system. It is recognized, however, as a Title V compliant septic system. And I would add that the setbacks proposed here all do comply not only with Title V requirements, they do all comply with the town of Cohasset supplementary rules and regulations. I guess the question is, where do you draw the line on where you want a nitrogen sensitive system? And your regulations are pretty clear that that line's drawn at 400 feet away from the river. This system, where it's proposed, is 520 feet away from that river. To raise the system a foot, to get to your question, would require installation of a pump at this location. The reduction to 3-foot groundwater separation allows it to flow by gravity.
Is there anything you can do with the current system, to increase nitrogen removal?
Well, the existing system is in the groundwater table, so you don't get any nitrogen removal at all.
Exactly.
The proposed one being 3 feet above the groundwater table, you will get nitrogen reduction in the soil absorption system itself. Short of installing a treatment plant in lieu of the septic tank, no, there really isn't anything additional you could do to this system to increase the nitrogen removal efficiencies.
If the system was moved to 4 feet rather than 3 feet, would that perform nitrogen removal at a better rate than as planned? And Jason, you can jump in anytime.
No, I don't feel that it would, because when you get nitrogen removal, it's typically prior to the leaching field itself, in the tank. It's not in the soil absorption system.
Yeah, I personally would rather just see treatment put in, personally. I mean, as I said, this is a critical resource. I know we're 520 feet, but it gets back to the semantics of, well, as we talked about in a previous meeting and as recommended in my letter as well, wetlands adjacent to a stream are basically the stream, especially when you're talking about the stream that feeds the water supply. It is part of that stream for all intents and purposes. So if those wetlands become affected by this system, the stream is affected by this system. So I'm not concerned about bacteria. I'm just I'm worried about the issues associated with nutrients coming out of the system.
I mean, sorry, I appreciate this from the Water Commission, and I totally understand, but I don't have the data to say whether we've approved similar systems within watershed wetlands areas that feed in. I'm sure we have, right? I mean, my concern, so I have two concerns about not approving this. One is it's not really consistent with our practice. Mainly, we're driven by, the buffer zone, the requirements, that you just did. We're outside of the 500 feet, right? And in addition, this is replacing a failed system, which was quite a bit worse than this one would be. So I'm having trouble. As someone who drinks the water that comes out of here, I gotta say that I totally can appreciate it, but I also am concerned that if we don't, I'm not sure that we necessarily have a whole lot of ground to not approve this. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm looking to Robin or Lynn or Pam on this to say, it seems to me like there's plenty of precedent for us to basically have the homeowner come back to the board and say, well, wait a minute, this is inconsistent with previous practice and everything like this, and it's not being driven by any given ordinance.
I do agree with Michael, and Jason, in terms of the recommendation about revising the regulations regarding nitrogen sensitive areas, again, that's not in place right now.
I agree.
That's the issue.
To take Cook Estates as an example, the board at that time required that system to, in letters that actually didn't get applied in the end, did require that system to be have nitrogen removal. It was in the original agreement. Somehow it didn't get implemented, but you do have the latitude at times to request something of a homeowner or of a landowner. It's to the maximum, the regulations are to the maximum extent possible, protect the environment. It doesn't say you have to approve specific upgrades. It's to the maximum extent possible. If the maximum extent possible is something else, then it's the maximum extent possible.
Agreed, but I mean, the upgrades that we're getting are not the upgrade requests that we're getting are not relevant to this particular question, right? The upgrades we're being asked to approve are the reduction of the distance to the foundation and the sieve analysis, right? If they were asking for I mean, I don't know how the technology credit plays into that, but I don't think that's considered a local upgrade, right?
No, it is not. With the use of the Presby system, you're granted the use of design credits. You don't need to apply for a local upgrade approval, and you don't need to apply for a variance for groundwater separation. You get the design credit associated with the Presby.
And the presumption of that is that the design basically makes the system essentially compliant, right? If you're saying you're allowed a 3-foot separation by the technology credit, that's been validated by some data, I would think, right? In terms of
remedial approval, it's not full approval.
Yes, it's been verified by the DEP. It's been issued a full remedial approval for sites with an existing home where you're not increasing the wastewater load out of this site. We're replacing a 4-bedroom house with a 4-bedroom septic system. Presby's actually approved to go all the way down to a 2-foot groundwater separation. What we've proposed is 3 feet. Because we can comply with that, we do recognize the concern here. And so we kept it at that higher elevation. We have 3 feet of separation. Any higher than that, again, would require a pump. And to replace a system with a treatment system is substantially more money at this location.
Now, let me ask the question of both Greg and Jason. As proposed, is this system protecting the environment from nitrogen as proposed? Sufficiently protecting?
It meets all of DEP's requirements for nitrogen in its location.
No, it does not protect the environment entirely from nitrogen.
Again, repeat that, please, Jason.
I do not believe it protects the environment entirely from nitrogen. I can't remember exactly what your question was, but no, it does not fully treat for nitrogen to protect that wetland from any effect of nitrogen loading.
Is that a function?
I'm speaking for the water department, by the way. I'm not
Right, I understand.
Water Health. I'm speaking as the water department.
Question, is this a function of our regulation not being strong enough?
Yeah, and that's why I'm recommending that we extend the regulation in the future.
I understand in the future, but right now your position is the regulation is not strong enough to protect the environment from total nitrogen removal. Is that correct?
Correct.
The state regulation is a 200-foot setback. Cohasset's local regulations put in place a 400. It sounds like you're going to be discussing increasing that 400 with a future revision to your regulations.
Yeah, I don't think we're in the position to discuss future.
No, I put that up.
To the regulation.
I put that as just a
Right, I understand.
thing to talk about in the future. Is not. I don't need to talk about that tonight. That was more like,
Right, understand.
I want this to be on the radar screen of something we should discuss in the future.
right, it makes sense, right? Because in the context of this particular case, this raises that question about the future consideration for regulation. But for tonight, I'm just having trouble with the idea of not approving the system based on all the reasons I mentioned. I mean, I totally understand the water department's position, but from just a fairness standpoint and a current practice standpoint, and the fact that we are already more aggressive in our regulations with respect to the watershed, I mean, it's just hard for me to give this to block this one.
Lynn, do you have anything to add to the discussion? Hello, Lynn. You're muted. Unmute so we can hear you.
Said she lost her sound. She'll dial back in when her phone works.
Yeah, she lost her sound,
Oh,
exactly.
she lost. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did she try speaking louder?
Now, who is Kelly Bliss? And is she an abutter or an interested party?
No, I'm not. Sorry, I'm just listening in for potential next month's agenda items. Sorry.
That's okay. You're welcome to be here. We're glad to have you.
Welcome.
I mean, I just had nothing else to do on a Wednesday evening. I
Oh,
thought
well,
I'd
there we
phone
go.
in, you know?
There we go. You mean you have something else to do during COVID time? I don't think so.
I'm multitasking.
Okay. Well, are we ready to,
I think Lynn is trying.
Lynn is trying. She's left her seat and is now roaming the neighborhood. Well, are you ready to make a recommendation, Michael?
I am. I'm looking. You there, Lynn? There you are.
I'm back. Sorry about that. I dropped my phone and it died. So I'm back and I agree with everything you say, Michael, but I am still hesitant on voting for it. So I'm not going to be making a motion or recommendation.
What is your hesitancy?
So I guess my hesitancy is if there is any leeway, we should, I guess I'm just not comfortable with the fact that we're not protecting the environment because it's really hard to go back. But at the same time, I understand Michael's point that it meets all the regulations right now. But Jason made a very convincing point as well, that if it doesn't protect the environment and we have, that's our responsibility to help do that. So I'm just not convinced yet. Or
Well, it seems to me that based upon our current regulations and how we've proceeded in the immediate past on this issue,
Right.
it would be a departure if we did not rule for the party. But I do agree with you that the issue is protecting the environment. However, we're locked in by our current regulations, and that's how, as I see it.
I guess to some extent, right? We do have some discretion. I'm just not sure that this is a situation where I just feel like we're so far away at this point that anyway, so I'm comfortable making a motion on this, and we'll just see how it plays.
Let me just ask Jason a question.
Yep.
So we have a 400-foot limit for removal.
Yes.
If you ran the numbers, what is the protection as it go out to 450 to 500 to 600 to 800? There must be a logarithmic.
The problem is the connection to the wetland. I agree. We're far away from the stream, but the wetland is right there. The wetland is what is causing all the issues at the treatment plant. If you go down to that brook after a rainstorm and you look at the T that's going over the top of that waterfall down to the ocean, it is like iced tea. And that's because of organics leaching out of wetlands along the stream banks. And that's where that comes from. It's tannic material that's broken down organics feeding that stream. It then goes directly to the treatment plant. That's what happens. That's the nature of our watershed. And like I said, it's going to come out in the near future, and we're going to be doing a mailing. We shut down Elms Meadow due to PFAS contamination last Monday. And so at this point, this is literally our only water supply for the town of Cohasset until we get additional treatment at Elms Meadow. And including we're putting forth a $3 million upgrade to the treatment plant to deal with these organic issues that we're seeing. Hopefully it gets passed, but that's what we're dealing with. You can definitely see it. If you ever go down there, you wouldn't want to drink the water that you think you're drinking.
Now, Jason, if I could ask you to put on your Board of Health hat
Yeah.
And from that perspective, give us some wisdom of your thinking from the Board of Health perspective, not from the Water Department.
I'd have to look back into what the actual regulations are as far as maximum extent possible, and what, I mean, technically there's two other approvals there. So he's going for a 16-foot setback to the foundation because he's trying to stay away from the wetland. So you do have leeway to not approve another variance and say, we think you have a constrained site here and you should do something about it. I as a Board of Health, I mean, I just think we're trying to protect the environment. In the end, it's about protecting the environment. I said that from the last time we had this go around with the wetlands adjacent to a stream, and that was a stream that didn't even feed the water supply. And
Apparently our Board of Health regulation is not strong enough based upon, that's your opinion, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Is somebody venture to make a recommendation? A motion? Anybody?
So order is in question of just a matter of process. We would approve the local upgrade request and then the overall plan. Is that right?
That's correct. That's correct. I don't think we have to approve the credits.
Correct. That's my understanding.
Is that true? Is that correct, Pam? Yes?
Yes, that's correct.
So just approve. If you're going to make a motion to approve, you must approve the local upgrade request initially.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm comfortable with that. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the local upgrade request 310 CMR 15405B to allow a reduction from 20 foot to 16.4 feet between the foundation and the SAS.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All against? Raise your hand, nay. There we go. Motion carries 2-1.
I'll move for the second local upgrade 310 CMR 15405I to allow a sieve analysis to be performed.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All against? Raise your hand.
But I have, sorry, I don't know which way is my phone.
No, I can see you now. Okay, motion carries 2-1, 2-1. And now, motion on the project itself.
Yes, sure. I'll move to approve the septic plan for, sorry, stand by, 397 Beechwood Street, design revision 12221.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Motion carries 2-1.
Thank you very much. Have a good
Thank you,
night.
Greg. Appreciate that. And Jason, will you help us spearhead the re-regulation or the?
Yeah, I even did a figure that I sent off to Pam and Brian Joyce
Okay.
that I can send to you guys about what that would look like, just based on DEP wetlands, not based on actual wetlands flagging.
Okay.
It basically would affect that side of Beechwood Street to the bridge, and then a portion of Doan Street where the stream crosses Doan Street.
Okay. So if you'll help us with that, we'll take that up at a future meeting.
I appreciate it. Like I said, I've only come to see it as much as I have being at the plant now, because that's where my office is, and it's a major effect. These wetlands on the water supply. It's crazy. I can show you the graph of what happens after a rain event. It's pretty substantial.
Okay.
And the Cook Estates too was kind of an eye opener of how poorly these systems are actually treating the water.
Well, we value your observations and your expertise. So help us along with this.
I appreciate you giving me the effort of I'm fighting my case.
You know, and by the way, you know, again, I think that this particular, like, if there are changes to the ordinance that we need to the regulations that then we should definitely have that conversation. That's not what this is about, right? This is
Just so you know,
I agree.
I even cut it back more than I had recommended before. So it's just the adjacent wetlands to the tributaries as well. So
Before you leave us, how are the twinsies doing?
they're doing good. They got their checkup tomorrow. Their 3-year checkup.
How old are they now?
3.
3. Oh my God.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And both of them are doing well.
They're here someplace. I don't know where
They're actually quiet, Jason. What's happening?
I don't know what. I'm not going to question it. What do they got?
Good. That's nice. Very nice. Congratulations. Nice to see that.
Thank you, guys.
I guess.
Now,
Thanks, Jason.
Pam, I did not receive an agenda. The agenda that was sent to me was for January. So do we have something else on the agenda tonight?
I think Amy just sent it, the updated one, for tonight. It's in your inbox right now.
I didn't see that. Okay, let me see if it's up there on another screen here.
I'll see if I can put it up too.
Let's see.
The next was wow, that was a half hour. Impressive. The next item is to revise the town of Cohasset supplemental Title V regulations, which I believe is what Jason was just proposing.
Yeah, that's what Jason just talked about.
So
Was there something else? I'm trying to figure out why Kelly Bliss is on the call. Is she sitting in for some
she was
reason?
listening for next month's. She wanted to get the lay of the land as a concerned citizen.
Yeah, I was just listening in to see how the flow of the meetings go for a possible agenda item for the Blisses on Forest staff next month.
Okay, well, you can see we're very reasonable people.
Well, we appreciate that.
At least not all of us all the time, but most of us most of the time.
Well,
I'm usually not. So
it's very efficient, very efficient. I think the Zoom meetings are beneficial, actually.
Excellent, thank you. So, Pam, do we have a few minutes? You might want to update us all on our favorite subject.
Can
the COVID? Yes, I'm sorry, Michael.
Sorry, I have the agenda in front of me, and we have a 6:40 agenda item we need to do something about, either table it or something.
I don't have it, so.
Yeah,
please
so
proceed.
it says at 6:40, revise the town of Cohasset supplemental Title V regulations, which is, I think, the proposal that Jason made in that letter.
Okay.
I think since it's on the agenda, we have to do something about that, even if it means we have to probably refer it to some study of some kind, right? We can't.
We could continue it to the next meeting.
Right.
We could continue that to the next meeting.
Because I would like to just better understand. I want to read about it some more.
Okay.
For myself. So I would move to continue that to what month is we in now? February, the next
It'd be
Board of
for
Health meeting,
March.
the March meeting.
March meeting, okay. Well, we actually have another meeting next week, or do we not?
I don't think we have anything for it, so we might as well make a March meeting.
Okay, so that future meeting on the 10th was canceled. We've canceled that, is that correct? I have that in my book for some reason.
Well, I don't think it was ever official. It was kind of proposed, and because Amy never really,
Okay.
Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, because you've never actually submitted, agenda to the clerk's office, it was never really an
Okay,
official
so
meeting.
we'll cancel, the February 10 meeting is officially canceled.
Yep.
Okay, so we will, Michael, you want to?
I would just like to, I would like to understand more about sort of, I want to study this sort of request and understand, get some recommendations, I guess, from,
Yeah, Jason, do you guys have data or studies? Like, wasn't, that group right now that's doing the study about like what the next step is in terms of wastewater in the town? The consultant that's working with Brian Joyce, it's like GHD or something.
Yeah. So the issue with a lot of the sampling that's done in the past, and we are at the water department actually starting up a new sampling program in the watershed. The issue is there's no data about rain and or wet, dry weather conditions in any of the sampling information. So it's basically hard to determine what the data means. So I'll see spikes in data that don't mean anything, and you need to know why you have a spike. If you don't know what the weather conditions were or what the stream flow was, to see a spike or a low or a high point, it's kind of meaningless. When I looked at CSCR had done some work out there, and the graph was just up and down, erratic. It had no meaning. So I asked Jack, if he had any information on the weather conditions, and no, he didn't. So we're in the process now. We're going to be using some high school students to actually go out. We bought all the new field testing equipment to start a more robust sampling program.
Is that the CSCR group?
We have reached out to Jack. He might be involved.
Okay.
So basically this time is going to be a lot more background documentation. When you take a sample, you're going to tell me,
Okay.
when was the last rainfall event? What was the stream flow level? And we'll have real data, so it will make sense to us.
So what I would like to, the reason the question I mean, it's great to get our own data, but lots of towns with their in their reservoirs and their water systems have the same situation, and they've created regulations based on probably many decades of study. So I'm just curious. What I want to understand is, in situations such as ours, where the town water supply is fed by basically a watershed that runs behind people's houses, for example, or that's a populated area that feeds into a reservoir system. What, the high, so after a rainfall, you get tons of organics, you get tons of, stuff in the water, so to speak. So what? Like, in terms of like, how does that pertain to, say, septic systems? Like, is that just nature doing its thing, or is it because of the septic system? I don't know the answer to this. I'm just raising.
It's funny because I did ask a hydrogeologist this question, because I asked him, I said, am I being really crazy to ask for this request? And he goes, it's like I said to you, it's funny that the wetlands are the greatest wastewater treatment plant there is.
Right. Yeah.
The problem is the byproduct of that treatment. They create organics. So
I mean, growing plants and things like this.
Plants growing and dying, root structure. That's what is causing problems with our treatment plant. We don't have problems with nitrogen. We don't have problems with phosphorus. We don't have problems with bacteria. We have problems with organic material.
So that's the question then, right? So then the question is about, what ways can have other sort of municipalities in a similar situation like mitigated that problem? Like, we're not, instead of, and so, I mean, presumably the watershed setbacks and such that we have are based on some of that data, but it sounds like, we're talking about now going beyond that to essentially the wetlands, not just the water, not just the actually moving water. And so I'm curious just to understand, I mean, because I want to give this a fair thinking, because I think I agree with you, this is a real concern, but I would want to understand what other, municipalities have done in order to do this, because it's going to have a big impact really on abutters, really. And I live adjacent to a watershed myself, and I have all kinds of stuff I can't do. So, eventually it'll be like, I can't even live here anymore, sort of kind of thing. So I'm just curious to understand more data is really what I'm getting at.
I can look into it, and because the big key is going to be who has wastewater, who doesn't. Like Weymouth has surface water supplies, but they're all sewered. So it'll be, I'll do some research and come back to you guys with other surface water communities with a fairly dense population, abutting population to the tributaries, and what kind of regulations they may or may not have.
That would be really, I think that would be really helpful, Jason. So thank you. So with that in mind, I'd like to move to table that.
Give me 2 months. Don't give me a month.
Oh, no, we got another meeting next week, right? No, I'm just
no, tomorrow night, not next week. No.
Yeah. So we'll table this. No, okay. So we can table this. We'll table it indefinitely until you ask to put it on the agenda. How about that?
Actually, it's a good idea to table it until
I'm ready.
Jason has some information for us.
Yeah.
I'm too busy doing COVID.
When we put that in, Jason, it's up to you to let us know when you're ready to present. Is that okay?
If you can get Pam to stop bothering with COVID stuff, I'll be able to do
Well,
it.
I
COVID.
know.
Now,
Well, you're like Chief Sylvia's favorite go-to person now, and
now
unfortunately,
now
you're
we're
a victim
talking,
of your own success, I think.
we're talking about Pam's favorite subject now,
Yeah.
COVID scheduling. Could you just give us a less than 5 minutes? Tell us, let everybody know where we are and what's going on.
Thanks,
Thank
Jason.
you.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. All right, so do you want me to just talk about this particular clinic that just?
No, just to give us a sense of what's going on. I think some of us know more than others. Some have misinformation or disinformation. I think just set us all straight.
Okay. All right, so let me just go back a little bit. So we had 2 very successful COVID vaccination clinics initially, and they were for first responders. So it was the combination of police and fire, and and people that were going to be working in clinics, like for example, Mary's school nursing staff that were going to be vaccinators and stuff. So we had 2 clinics. It was about 30 people each, and so it was a very controlled clinic. We knew who everybody was, and so the way it works is that I have a software system that everybody in the state uses. And it's called PrepMod. And I go into PrepMod and I actually like design a clinic. You know, I say, where is it going to take place? How many vaccinators are we going to have? How many minutes apart are all the people coming in? And it results in like, 80 slots or 100 slots. It's almost like a math problem trying to get it to work out to how many time slots you're going to end up having. And that's dependent upon how many doses you have. So we had 2 clinics, 30 doses each. When I save the clinic, it produces a URL. And then I sent that out to each of the 30 people for one day and 30 people for the other day. And so each of those 30 people clicked on the link, they registered, grabbed a time slot, put all their health and insurance info in there. Great, worked like a charm. That they all showed up with their time slots and got vaccinated, and we entered all the info into PrepMod, saved it, sent it out to the MIIS system, which is like the big mass vaccination overall database. Everything was great. So now, this week, we were having a much more complicated clinic. This one had people that identified as being phase 1 healthcare workers. So under phase 1, everybody that worked in a hospital was taken care of by a hospital. Everybody that was in a nursing home was taken care of by CVS. First responders, we did them. Now we're down to people that have a whole mishmash of other healthcare type of things. So we had them. And then we started to dig into the 75 plus group, which is the first group in phase 2. Then we also had some like DPW guys. So it was this whole mixed bag of people. And altogether we had 100 slots because we had 100 doses of vaccine. That's all we're going to get every week, at least through the month of February, is 100 doses. So created the clinic, 100 slots. Well, actually, that's not true. We split it up even further because we had 20 people over at 60 Elm that are greater than 75. So they had their own link, and that was completely controlled by their health director. So we had a clinic for 80 slots for everybody else.
What did the 20 slots go to? I missed that.
60 Elm Street.
Oh, 60 Elm. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we put it out, and it turned out, we didn't think to say, don't share this with anybody. This is only for you because we have exactly 80 slots and only you can sign up. And people shared it. They shared the link. So go to look to see like, oh, did our 80 people sign up? And there's, lo and behold, 32 people that weren't even on our list that signed up. So then we said, what are we going to do? Do we try to fix it and keep it as it is and delete people out? And, and then we realized that's not even practical because, it could have been shared and then shared again and, so on. So we decided we have to just cancel this whole clinic and basically start over again. And so that's what we did. And so Elder Affairs, there's a staff of 5 there. We gave them a list of 45 people that are 75 and over that were supposed to be in the clinic, and they called each and every one of them today. And they rescheduled them over the phone rather than sending out a link or something. And in the meantime, we sent out info to the healthcare workers and everybody else. And so I think we recovered today. Tuesday was a nightmare. Today, Wednesday, I think by the end of the day, we pretty much recovered and
Good.
set up a whole new clinic for Friday. But Christine, you talked to Diane Kennedy about it, Diane's the chairwoman of the select board. And she wants to just kind of keep it really tight going forward and have people called and not send out any more links in the future. And at first my thought was like, oh, that's so much work. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, well, you know what? There's a whole library staff that are kind of sitting around and they haven't had anything to do in 11 months. And I think they're actually chomping at the bit and hoping to help us. So I think if we use the library staff and if we use the elder affairs group, I have a feeling that's the way we're going to end up going for future clinics, is they're just going to call everybody one at a time. And that way there's no links to be shared and it's all very controlled.
Okay, but people have been pre-registered, is that correct?
So the pre-registration list allowed us to sort through that.
Okay.
And so we sorted out who's a phase 1 healthcare worker because they're up first.
Right.
We found them. They're actually a pretty small pool of people. And then the next big group is the 75 plus group. And then we sorted them by the order that they pre-registered. And so we're just going through that group, as they came in. And we found out today through the phone calls that a lot of people have already gotten appointments for other clinics and stuff. So people were dropping out. I would say maybe 20% of people already said, no, thank you. I found someplace else. So we had initially about 400 people that fell into that 75 plus age group. We could get through them in 4 weeks, especially if people keep finding alternative places to get vaccine. Maybe it's even less.
I pre-registered my mom on a website, but I just signed her up for next Wednesday in Pembroke. But obviously, I'd rather here. But I probably was on the later side of pre-registering her, but because she goes and gets her care at MGH, so they called her and they're just randomizing their 75 and older patients. So,
Lynn, where did you say you signed her up?
So Brigham Women's, I guess, place in Pembroke, and really Wednesdays only, starting at 7 at night is their first appointment. I could have taken her to Boston, but I figured they were also on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and that's when Andrew is remote for school. So I was like, we'll just do it in Pembroke. I was just trying to avoid going to a stadium. I just felt like I got my vaccine at MGH. It was super easy. I was in and out. So I was like, trying to avoid any mob scene.
Yeah, partners, which is Brigham and MGH, they're contacting all of their patients. I shouldn't say all of them. They're contacting patients to set up appointments.
Yeah, well, it's an automated telephone.
It comes on the patient gateway, that automated system.
But my mom couldn't figure out how to get onto a patient gateway.
Well,
so instead,
that's the problem. Yeah. So I think you might be, Pam and Mary, you might be seeing some cancellations of people who were going to come to our clinics in Cohasset, have found other homes along the way.
We're finding.
My position has always been a bird in hand is worth, if you can get it, and don't wait. That's my position.
Yeah, what we seem to be hearing from DPH is that we are going to continue to get 100 doses a week.
Right.
And that they really seem to be pushing for people to go to these mass vaccination sites. They're staffing them. They're getting lots of vaccine, and they're really tying our hands. It's
that's sad.
It's not fair,
That's very sad.
We've pushed back on the local health level and told them, like, this is just not a good option for people 75 and older, the mass vaccination sites. I mean, if you're a healthy worker, that's great. but 75 and older should really be their local health. And no matter how much we have complained, and
Yeah, yeah.
it doesn't really seem to
Well,
matter.
if you go on the mass.gov on their COVID site and you pull up the map of where, quote, there are sites, the South Shore is the doldrums. There's
It's
nothing,
true.
nothing
There's
between South Boston and Middleborough.
I
There's
know,
nothing.
it's true.
Even with the pharmacies getting on board, there are no pharmacies on the South Shore getting on board. I don't understand it.
That's correct.
I know. I think like the CVS in Hanover, and that's about it. And it's packed. It's hard to get into and stuff.
Nothing in Plymouth. That just,
My
Plymouth
mom
has it.
actually got one yesterday at Health Express in Kingston by the Hannafords there. South Shore Medical's doing them there.
Do you think
But
that
you know what though, Jason? My dad called South Shore Medical today and they said we don't have any vaccine. I think they opened it up and they got swamped. And then now they have a recording just basically saying move on.
is our town manager and select board aware that we're being squeezed that way and that maybe
Oh yeah.
they should make contact with our state senator and state rep?
Yeah,
Yeah.
didn't you get the letter from Chris Senior? He forwarded that to you guys. He wrote a letter to the Senator O'Connor and Joan Moschino, and I think he sent it to you guys last Friday. He pushed very hard, actually.
mhm.
Well, I mean, there are other communities close by us in the same situation, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Everybody is. In fact, one of the things people talked about was, what if we all band together and we did a regional clinic or something? And so the town of Marshfield, I think, is going to do like a drive-through, maybe at the Marshfield Fairgrounds. But you know what? They're only getting like 100 doses per town anyway. So basically, like say we said we want to join, it would be like we'd be just pooling our 100 doses
Yeah.
and spreading them out about 6 towns. So we'd actually end up with less in a way, you know,
Yeah, I
per
think
person. So
I think
it
we're
would be a
best
bad
off,
idea.
best off going our own way, but
No,
golly, I wish we get a little more than 100. That's kind of a pittance.
it stinks.
It's
Mary,
really,
or-
it's really a pittance because we're set up at Wilcott. I don't know if you've been over there to look at it, but we're ready to roll. We could do, 4 or 5 vaccinators for 4 hours, 3
Right.
times a week. I mean, our plan was to crank through a lot of people a week, but that's just not happening.
Yeah, we were talking like 600 a week. We could have got that 75 plus age group, boom, done in 1 week.
Mhm, mhm.
Pam, people pre-registered so far.
Last
Like-
time I looked, it was a little over 2,700. I didn't even really look today.
So what is our total pre-registration sign up? What's the number? N equals what? 3,200?
You got it in front of you, Jason? You're on mute. Okay. Yeah, no, I think I looked yesterday and we were at 2,700. We're averaging about 3 to 400 a day, I think.
2910 right now, but they might include those duplicates still. There might be 50 duplicates that we need to get rid of.
Okay, so it's significant interest, obviously. People, well, we can only pressure, maybe keep pressuring the select board and senior to let them know the demand we have on our side and we're
Oh,
not
they
meeting the
know.
demand.
They
I mean,
know.
that's basically it. People are angry that we're not even meeting the demand. And it's the state that's really doing us in, I think.
It's the state that's decided they can determine how they want to allocate it, and they've decided that mass vaccination sites are the way to go. Even though it made no sense to do it for the older people, that's what they're doing. And they've been telling us too that when they finish vaccinating prisons and shelters and stuff, there'll be more supply. But I have a feeling they're still going to shove that off to mass vaccination sites.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I think MGB is also not getting as many as they want. Like, I don't think it's just the towns.
Yeah, I know. Well, the 100 is awful, but when you think about it, like Weymouth, it's got like 67,000 people. They're getting 100.
With Quincy as well, Quincy's 200,000 people.
I think they're 100,000.
Yeah.
I think it's like the same. It's
I
crazy.
mean, ridiculous. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Just so you know, I added that wording that Hingham had put on their form. I don't know if you noticed on the online thing, it now says on our pre-registration that very clearly our form is a pre-registration form and not not a guarantee you're getting a vaccine. And if you get an option to go someplace else, take it. I added to our form.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, so so we don't waste vaccine or appointments. I hope that people are canceling if they receive appointments elsewhere. Is that correct? Is that happening?
They have been good about that so far, and we also have a standby list so that we can put
Okay,
people
good.
in.
Good. Okay, good. All right. Anybody else? Anything else?
So the 21 people that are going to be vaccinated at 60 Elm tomorrow tomorrow, they're going to be done by the paramedics, which is a new venture, but there's 3 paramedics. They're going to go building to building and vaccinate. So,
Okay. Are they going to be under your supervision?
well, they're under the supervision of Captain Belanger, who's also an RN.
Okay.
But I'm working with Randy and I work together, but he's supervising that group.
Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. Well, excellent.
Oh, Mary, I'm so glad you mentioned that because I'm so confused about like what day of the week it is right now because we've been working so much. And I forgot they're doing that thing tomorrow. I have to get them a registration list first thing in the morning.
Okay.
I would have completely forgot about that. Thank you for saying that.
Okay.
I
Well,
started at 7 o'clock this morning on a Zoom call, and it just went from there to there to there to this. So 12 hours later, Pam, we're still at it.
I know, and it's been like that every day this week so far. So I'm like, ugh.
well, you're both to be congratulated for sure. I can't say enough. And I see heads shaking over there on the upper right and the lower left.
No question. No
Okay.
question.
All right. Well, let's adjourn the meeting at this point, and thank you all. And
Do we need to, sorry, wait.
Yes.
We have to approve, do we have to approve minutes at the next meeting, all the other
Yeah,
stuff?
Amy just said
Yes.
that. That's right.
Okay. Minutes for January 13, I believe. All in favor of approving the minutes for January 13, 2021, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, meeting approved. Okay.
And then you're going to set the date too for next meeting? Do we have, I don't think we did that, right? For
Well, we're
March?
looking at, well, it'll be probably in March now. Is that correct? So we want to look out far enough ahead? It's up to-
March 3rd?
It's up to you. Fine.
Fine by me.
No, I'm not going anyplace.
Hey, Robin, by
Yeah.
the way, I got to tell you, you're up next, you know.
I'm what?
You're going to be in the next clinic next week.
Oh, so jealous.
You're coming up.
Well, I might have to cancel. Seriously, I will cancel because MGH just gave me a slot and Mary Lou's slot for Saturday down in Pembroke. So
Great.
I'm going to sell I'm going to go in and try to sell my slot to
I'm
somebody.
gonna buy it. I don't have to take my mom to Pembroke. I'm all on it.
Yeah, the Pembroke is close enough. I wouldn't have gone into the city, but Pembroke is close enough. Okay, everybody, thank you all.
All right, so March 3rd is 6:30, we decided.
March 3rd, 6:30. Anything else? Any other business? Michael, you should make the motion to adjourn, actually.
I don't know, I'm kind of tired. I made a lot of motions tonight, but I will, yes, I would love to move to adjourn.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Carries 3-0.
Good night.
Nice evening. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.